I guess I wanted to do this segment because a couple of weeks back I saw in the news that you introduced legislation called Accessing America's Critical Minerals Act, and I was just curious to see what is that all about, and why is this legislation important to industry?
So Ryan, we're looking at, we are blessed with minerals within this country in the ground, and we have the ability right now to look at our supply chain dependency. Through COVID, we realized that we're relying on adversarial nations for not only our rare earths, but our critical minerals as well. And so we have the ability, my Accessing America's Critical Minerals Act is talking about making that process, a shorter time frame, not skipping out on anything, the EPA standards, the EIS, the EAW, the transparency, the openness, the public comment period, everything is there, but just remove the redundancy part of it. And there's a time frame that, within 30 months to be able to have the mine open. Look at what the gold mine in Ontario did, just north of us. I think it was less than 4 years. And they're mining gold, and we can do that right now. For instance, the mining that PolyMet wants to do, they're like in their 19th year of permitting. And so that's unacceptable because we need those critical minerals now. And furthermore, we want to ensure that those critical minerals are mined under the best environmental standards and the best labor standards in the world. And we have the skilled workforce to do that. And so my piece of legislation has some changes in the duplicative process of the NEPA to remove that and allow it to proceed in a timely fashion and not allow the opposition to weaponize the system or weaponize the court system against the process.
Absolutely. And I'm glad that you mentioned Canada, because I was going to ask a question about that, because, I've heard from many that there's 4 or 5 active gold mines in the same watershed that Twin Metals wants to eventually mine on. And yeah, it was what you're saying, they're getting a permit within 3 to 5 years. And that's, to me, what kind of comes off as a pretty good balance, anywhere from 2 to 5 or 3 to 5 years of going through the process, making sure that it can be done safely and responsibly. But at the same time, make it cost effective for investors that want to, come into the region.
And Ryan, we use these. We're look at our iron ore mining, for example. 85% of this America steel comes from the iron ore mine in the Iron Range. There's nobody that does it better, cleaner, and safer than they do on the Iron Range. And that's what we want in this next realm of critical minerals mining, to be able to mine these critical minerals in the safest fashion with the best environmental standards and the best labor standards. We need these critical minerals for our everyday life. And when we mine it here in our backyard, right, we can assure that there was no forced child labor in mining the minerals, and it was done right. We know that between 30 and 40,000 children are forced into slave labor by mining critical minerals, to include cobalt, across the world. And those aren't my figures; those are UNICEF's. That's a nonpartisan entity that has said that. So we want to be able to make sure that when we mine these, we mine it with as I stated, the best environmental and the best labor standards. And I think that's critically important. So the Accessing Critical Minerals Act is really, there's reasonable time frames. There's still transparency, and the timeliness is also important. I was on a natural resource hearing for a markup rather for almost 9 hours yesterday. And the hostility towards mining is palpable. You can literally feel it. And we had in the mining sphere of the conversation, the Republicans brought up, I think it was 60 some amendments, and not one was adopted, all on party lines. If it's not grown, it's mined, right? That's David Tomasoni's line. If it's not grown, it's mined. We have to have that ability to allow good paying jobs to enter our economy And we do it best here. I mean, the 8th congressional district is unlike any other congressional district in this nation, Ryan, with the critical minerals and the iron ore mining.
Well, and what's disappointing about this too, it seems like these projects would make sense for both sides of the aisle, because you have one side of the aisle that's consistently preaching about the Green New Deal. Well, where do you want those minerals to come from? Let's say in their perfect world that it goes through, where do you want these minerals to come from? Do you want to come from home, or do you want to come from overseas?
Well, it's
It doesn't make
interesting
any
because,
sense.
Ryan, you're exactly right. It's interesting. In the markup yesterday, I asked one of my colleagues, my Democratic colleagues, who voted down resolution copper in Arizona. And it's the same playbook they're using on resolution copper as they're using up in northeastern Minnesota against mining. I asked him if he would yield me time for a question to him. He sure did. And I said, where then would you allow copper mining in the United States? Dead silence. Wouldn't even commit to allowing mining in northeastern Minnesota, which I was trying to lead him to. So the bottom line is the hostility towards mining is and oil and gas extraction is palpable in the nation's capital. And under this administration, there's a lot of hard work we have to do and a lot of education that we have to put forth to folks that don't really believe in the same thoughts and ideas and mining and jobs in the economy as you and I do.